to duck my head.
Oh, I mean,
I see what it is. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we might make a start, thanks. Before I get started, I think I recognise many faces, but can I just check anyone that is meant to be in the estate management conversation that is actually next door? Anyone there? This is medicine. All good? Excellent, thank you. So good afternoon everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jonathan Fesson. I'm the General Manager of Medicine. Before we start this presentation today, I do want to acknowledge the Bedigal people, the original custodians of the land upon which we meet today. And I'll pay my respects to the elders, both past and present, and those Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people here in the audience today. So I recognise the importance of this meeting, and also that we come together at a pretty challenging and unsettling time. So my intent this afternoon is to share with you some content today, so you kind of walk away feeling like you have access to information, you're prepared in time for the release of the workplace change proposal or consultation paper, which will follow this presentation. Okay? As we speak, there are 6 other faculties and estate management and central IT groups having similar conversations. Okay, so we're dealing with kind of unprecedented scale of change across UNSW, but also within medicine. Okay, I have a few slides to share. I will try and leave as much time as possible for questions following this, but I do acknowledge that people want to have some time to digest the information, and so there will be plenty of opportunity to ask questions, raise any issues, etc. throughout the entire consultation period. But let's move on. Some seats at the front here, thanks. Okay, so today, over the next kind of hour or so, what I would like to cover is give you a sense of the workplace change process that we've been following today, and then we will follow over the coming weeks and months. I want to talk a little bit about UNSW's service model, and in particular, what does that mean for medicine and the proposed changes within this faculty. Talking a little bit about the structure, but I'm not going to be showing org charts. All of that information is going to be in the paper that you will all receive and have access to. I do want to talk a little bit about impacts and benefits, but then give the majority of the time, if possible, to a range of questions and talking about the next steps that are available to us all. Okay, just thought it was important just to kind of step back a little bit and look at the kind of the journey that we've been on as part of operational excellence, and where does medicine fit into this piece. So today we've been looking at a new service model for UNSW, and we've seen changes take place across IT, we've seen changes take place across external relations and continue to take place within central IT as well. And we're seeing that kind of the next wave of change take place as part of a broader operational excellence program. And this workplace change is really focused, as I have sort of said all along in the town hall sessions, this workplace change is primarily focused on the faculty itself. So general administration, research support and teaching support within the faculty. There is no attempt or requirement as part of this workplace change to lift up effort and shift it centrally. Okay, this is all about retaining local staff within the faculty, within our schools, centres and institutes. With respect to the kind of the key functions, so what has been in scope as part of this workplace change? Some of you might be familiar with this slide. I shared it at the last series of town hall sessions. What I'm trying to do here is articulate really what have we been looking at as part of this particular workplace change, trying to understand the activities that we perform today and would like to perform in the future within general administration, within teaching support or education support, and within research support. Okay? All activities that are very faculty specific or school, centre and institute specific, all activities that are necessary for us to actually do what we need to do. Okay? Some of the critical things that have come up as part of these conversations is actually recognising the kind of the unique characteristics of this faculty, and in particular the characteristics of actually having clinical schools. So having the bulk of our operations actually off this campus presents this faculty with a range of challenges that no other faculty has. Okay? So that is why during the process we've been very, very particular about understanding that and making sure that is well understood and well known, because it does have an impact. It has an impact on the effort that we need because of our distributed spread of our effort, as opposed to all being within one great big building on campus here. Okay, so that's very, very much part of the conversation. So what I want to articulate is why are we undergoing this workplace change? What's the intent? What's the drive behind this? And ultimately, what are the benefits, the potential benefits of what we're proposing as part of this change? So fundamentally, we want to invest in our staff. Okay, we need to recognise that the effort and contribution needs to be rewarded by the faculty, and so we want to make sure that there's positions that are in place, they're of the appropriate level, they're consistent across the board, and they're of the appropriate sort of classification in order to kind of recognise and reward the work that we do. We do want to make sure we enhance the capability and capacity in priority areas for the faculty. Okay? We do some outstanding work across this faculty, without a doubt, but there are some gaps in what we do. There are some things that we're trying to address as part of this series of kind of proposed changes. So we do want to enhance the capability and capacity that we have today. But there are also kind of legacy issues. So things that have happened over time and have evolved organically without any sort of deliberate structure at a faculty level, looking at our schools, centres and institutes. Okay? So and that has resulted in inconsistency across our resourcing levels, inconsistency across the positions that we've got. So this is a deliberate strategy to try and actually realign all of that and get some consistency and structure and address all of those legacy issues. Add in some new effort where required, and make sure we've got the capacity that we require. We are looking at ways of seeing if we can elevate or group activities or services that are common across all of our areas, because we can get some economies of scale by doing that. That's not picking it up and taking it outside of this faculty. That's saying actually within the faculty itself, are there some common elements that we can pick up and get some greater benefit for all of the faculty, for all of our programs, for all of our courses, not just for certain particular types of or instances of programs and courses. And I think it is important that people have and should expect to have a kind of a clear understanding of what is their role, what are their expectations of their role, what are the behaviours that we are expecting of our staff across the board. And I think this process helps us get to a better place. Okay, what I wanted to talk to was just a couple of instances around what we're proposing, and I'm going to step through a number of slides here about the proposed set of changes. Okay, so this proposed structure features some new roles, including, this is not an exhaustive list, but it features some new roles. Okay, so this is about investing in some new capability today. Okay, this is about saying that we're proposing to put in place some senior resources, looking at our research support and our education support. Roles that don't exist today, roles that we don't have the ability to tap into to help in terms of strategic advice, in terms of activities and initiatives, etc., around the research that we perform today and the teaching support. Okay, this is about professional staff support for our academics and our senior executives across the faculty. It's also about putting in place some kind of capability across our significant research support and infrastructure. Okay? This faculty has 45% of research income across the university. Okay? We have significant infrastructure and facilities to support. That's why we need some capability in that particular space. I also think we have some key gaps within this faculty around some crucial elements to that impact both our staff and our students. So the kind of mental health of our students and staff in particular is of a significant concern to me, and something we've been trying to address for a while. This proposal actually creates a role to actually help the academics, help our staff, help our students in terms of their well-being. Okay? We also have some gaps in terms of our equity and diversity. So this is about the faculty investing in the capability to try and drive some initiatives within that particular space, looking at gender equity, looking at low SES student representation, looking at diversity across both staff and student cohorts. Some real gaps that we have today. And we're also trying to invest in some kind of analytical capability. Okay, there's a huge range of data coming to us from central areas, and so we need the ability to be able to kind of unpack that data, make decisions based on that data, support the performance across our research and our education portfolios. Hence why we want to invest in this particular space. But the proposed structure also tries to group some capability. Capability that is pretty much grouped already, but actually this is about trying to enhance that and pick up the pieces that aren't necessarily grouped. Okay, because we get far greater benefit if we can combine those together. So this is looking at our educational development capability for all of our programs and courses. So this is about trying to group our educational design or our instructional design, our media and video production, the kind of innovation around our pedagogy, the way we look at our courses, the way we develop our courses, building some capability into that space to support all of our programs and our courses. Okay, they're all equally important, and so we need to make sure we invest in them accordingly. Okay, across our laboratory space, in terms of our lab managers or our research support officers, our technical assistants, we have an outstanding model at the moment in terms of the way we deliver services, primarily here on campus across the Lowy and Wallace-Worth. We want to try and consolidate that even further. Okay? It's not a reduction of effort, it's about trying to pull that effort together to make sure we can get further economies of scale. Okay? We've got a huge advantage in this faculty because we've already done that. Okay? We've already got this support structure in place. And so as new buildings come on board, the biosciences and then the stage 2 biosciences down the track, we're already set up to potentially even offer a support model across the entire precinct here at the top part of the campus. And the third point I wanted to highlight here was about this proposed structure aligns functional areas. Okay? Was very evident to me when we're looking through the current state. We're looking at unpacking what we do today. Okay, what was very clear was actually there was no clear delineation of who did what. Okay, all the roles were actually really quite similarly titled. Okay, so it was very difficult to look at a glance and see who does what. This is trying to actually address that. Okay, trying to look at, okay, this is our capability that does education support, does teaching support within our schools, centres and institutes and within the faculty. This is the group that looks at our, supports our academics in course and program development, in accreditation requirements, in faculty or school specific education support activities. Okay, well this is the support that actually looks after our administration. Okay. This is the support that looks after our HDR support, our significant HDR load across the faculty. And this is the support that looks after our conjoint management. Okay, 3,500 conjoints across this faculty. If we didn't have our conjoints, the medicine program couldn't run. Okay, so we need to make sure we invest in them and support them, but we need to make sure we have the appropriate effort grouped and allocated within our particular school centres and institutes. Okay. So, just attempting to sort of summarise some proposed impacts here. Okay. So we are looking at the school manager role and saying actually that role now is quite, has some changes because of the fact that operational activity like finance, etc., has actually been centralised. So we're now freeing up the school manager to actually participate far more in the strategic kind of nature of the school. What is the strategy of a particular school? All of our school centres and institutes are big businesses in their own right, so we need some capability within that particular space. As I said, we are trying to create quite specialist roles to look at priority areas across the faculty, gender and equity, well-being, etc. We are trying to create, again, some senior roles to support our education and our research. So the primary business of this faculty is research and it's teaching, and we need some additional capability to support our academics, to support our professional staff in that particular space. We are trying to create, proposing to create some quite specialist education support for our undergraduate and postgraduate programs across our schools, centres and institutes. Okay? The programs are quite different. Okay? They do need some quite particular support, and so we want to make sure they have that support. Okay? There is then the added complication if you're delivering that undergraduate program or that postgraduate program off-site of this campus or in a hospital or in a particular clinical school. Okay, so again, we need to make sure we're investing in that capability to deliver that support. And I think I've talked about the sort of educational design capability. This is a growing requirement for the faculty. We do want to invest in this. Okay, I don't believe it should be up to a single school to try and have to find or invest in capability to redesign its programs, to actually digitise its programs, to actually have media and video production for its programs. This should be a shared capability that we can tap into to improve our programs and our courses moving forward. I do think there are a range of benefits with this proposed model. I really do. And I'm confident that as we move through this process, okay, and actually through the consultation process and ultimately land on a final decision, I think there will be significant benefits for this faculty. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think that there were going to be some major benefits for us. So I do think we are simplifying a range of things. We're simplifying processes, we're simplifying systems, we're clarifying our roles and responsibilities. We're making it much easier to actually determine who is doing what in our particular schools, centres and institutes, and making sure we've got all the right information to make appropriate decisions for our research strategy, for our education strategy, etc. We are creating an ability to leverage support services at a faculty level. Support services or shared services that we already have today. So our laboratory support, our research-based laboratories, that's a shared service at the moment that we provide across the faculty. Okay? And we are trying to move to enhance the great culture we already have. Okay? But enhance that to the point that we are continuously improving. We're really focused on customer service, and we're kind of delivering an outstanding level of service across the board in a consistent way. This workplace change has also been focused on IT, information technology. The process to get to this point has been a little different. So that has been run primarily by the central IT group to get us to the point today where there's a proposed change across all of IT within our faculties and within central divisions. Okay? And the way that they have got to that process is not too dissimilar to what we followed, where it's about understanding the current state, mapping the services that we do today, and then getting to the point where we think, okay, here's a potential future state that we can move to. So the proposed impacts is about trying to commoditize or look at the common services that each of the faculties provide and say, actually, that is duplicating services that exist today. We can lift that up at a common level and deliver that far more efficiently. But it is also saying that it's recognizing that there is very specific faculty-based IT systems, services and processes that exist, and so that effort is just being retained, okay? The only change there is, the proposed change is that there are reporting line shifts, where we're trying to create all IT capability reporting in centrally to the central IT. It might still be embedded within the faculty, they might work solely on a faculty or a school or a centre or an institute-based activity, but actually their reporting lines are through to a central IT function. Okay, and then a significant amount of work looking at the IT services in terms of the level, the standards, the SLAs, the range of activities that we have in place today, and the agreements and the standards that we have in place today to ensure the highest quality service there. And so the benefits for medicine, particular to IT, is that we start to create this sort of first point of contact for IT, okay? Where things are funneled through as a shared capability to deal with issues. Much greater clarity in terms of where we can have our IT issues resolved, where we can go for further support, etc. Okay? This consistent model, governance model in terms of our IT processes and our policies that doesn't exist today. There are quite separate policies and processes across all of our particular areas with respect to kind of IT governance, IT procurement, etc. Okay? And we create inconsistencies as a result of that. And then we have far greater kind of asset management capability of our IT equipment. So we obviously have EMED. EMED is a standalone system pretty much outside of the enterprise suite of systems within the faculty, within the university. That creates a massive risk not only for medicine but also for the university. Okay? It's not about getting rid of EMED, it's about making sure that EMED is part of the capability that the university has to deliver and support the faculty's needs, including medicine. Okay. So there's a very, very structured process to now follow. Okay, so I just want to spend a few more minutes talking about the sort of the next steps in the process from here. Okay, so we're obviously on the 8th of August today. Following this town hall session, an email will be sent to all staff named in the paper. Okay, it will essentially release within that email. There'll be a release of the workplace change proposal or the consultation paper. And that email will also spell out some key dates and information required. Within the paper itself, there's also a huge amount of information, not only on the sort of proposed structure and the proposed impact, but also on support available for staff, timings in terms of the consultation period, okay, and a whole lot of other information that I have talked to today in terms of how did we get here? What's the process that we followed in order to get here? What are the benefits that we're seeking to achieve, and what are the proposed changes that we're suggesting as part of this workplace change? So there is, essentially from now we will start a 2-week consultation period. Okay, there's quite a formal element to that. Firstly, in terms of staff have the opportunity to actually respond individually, respond collectively at a group level or at a school level to any concerns, issues, feedback, etc. Okay? I do want to stress, actually, the process that we follow, we are at a proposal stage. What you will receive today is a proposal, okay? And it is a genuine proposal. There is nothing locked in. That is why my language today has been all about proposed, potential, etc. Okay? We have a consultation period. I have no doubt that what is proposed today will look very different to what we ultimately decide on in a few weeks' time. Okay? So we have done our best attempts through a range of different activities to get to the point where we understand what we do today, and we're at a point where we can propose what we think is an excellent future state model. So we've run workshops, Okay, we've run current state and future state workshops. We've had multiple conversations across the faculty. We've run activity allocation exercise with virtually all of our professional staff in scope to understand what they do today. We've kind of looked across all of the faculties. We've looked outside of this faculty to other faculties, other health or medical science faculties in Group of 8 to see what structures do they have. Okay? So there's been a huge amount of work to understand current state, get us to the point where we think we have a positive future state, and then get us to the point where we can release a proposal today. Okay? But it is a proposal. 2-week consultation period. We then have a week to turn all of that feedback into what we think is an appropriate sort of implementation. Okay? And I'm anticipating at this point that by the 29th of August we will be in a position to release that. Now, some of these dates might change depending on the amount of consultation that we have, remembering that all 7 faculties participating in this, so except for Canberra and except for business, all of the other UNSW faculties are participating in the same process. Given that volume of change, some of those dates might slip, but that's what we're aiming for at the moment. A 2-week consultation period, a 1-week period where we can have time to pull all that feedback together, and then release of an implementation paper. We then have some broad dates here about what we're trying to move towards in terms of the implementation process. Okay? So, assuming a decision is made and we have an implementation paper distributed to staff, we would then move into the implementation of that. And fundamentally that is about trying to move people into their new positions, trying to recruit for new or vacant positions, okay, and trying to settle into that new model as rapidly as possible. Okay? We want this to be as least onerous process, not only on the applicants or the people applying for roles, but also on staff, because we still have a business to run. We're moving into kind of peak periods across the university throughout all of this time frame. So I recognise that. So we want to have as least disruption as possible across the board. Okay, that's going to be difficult. That's going to be difficult. The kind of third phase, if you like, or stage of the process is then to really from, we're proposing sort of November onwards, the beginning of November onwards is really to move into, okay, we have the people in place now, we will probably still have vacant positions, I would have assumed, but we have majority of people in place. We're now looking to try and get that kind of new model really up and running. So that is about making sure we've aligned all of our systems and processes. Okay? This is not going to be as radical as what we have experienced to date and will continue to experience for finance. Right? Because what we're not doing is we're not picking up finance activity from our schools, centres and institutes and trying to centralise it. Okay? The great majority of activity that we're talking about is still retained in our schools, centres and institutes. Okay? All we're trying to do is make sure we have the right positions in place, we have the consistent positions, okay, to deliver the services. But fundamentally the activity remains the same. Of course there will be some changes as we move some things out, but it's not as I'm not anticipating as radical change as we have experienced across finance and what we will experience across external relations or marketing and comms as we shift to a new model. There will be training required. There will be onboarding required. So even if there are brand new people joining, either within the university or external, okay, there will be training required. But there will be training required and onboarding required for people that have been here a long time, because we are trying to, we're trying to sort of change the way that we do things. It's not the same. It's not going to be the case of just simply picking up and moving into a new position and I just continue to do what I do today. We do need to change across the board, okay? Even people that have been mapped, there are some instances where we are still saying, yes, but some of those roles, some activities of that role have changed, okay? Not significant enough to actually potentially disestablish, but changed enough to actually say we now need to look at doing some things differently across the board, Okay? One of the key things we'll need to work on over the consultation period, and certainly as we get things up and running, is understanding what are our measures of success. How will we fundamentally know that what we have moved to is better than what we have today? Okay? So we need to make sure we set ourselves some standards in our measures of success. We want to give ourselves some kind of performance metrics to make sure that we can look back and say, well, yes, we have improved things. We said there were going to be benefits, and we've now achieved those. Or we haven't achieved those, so what do we need to do about that? Okay? I don't want to overload us with SLAs, etc. That's not the point of this, but we do need to have some kind of standards. Okay? Those people that access our services, whether they're students or whether they're professional staff or whether they're academics, do need to know what to expect from the service that they are receiving. Okay? And we need to make sure we kind of build that in order to have that sort of that culture of delivering a service, delivering high quality standards across the board. Okay, a final couple of slides. So fundamentally, we need to make sure all of our staff, regardless of impact, feel supported throughout this process. Okay, and there are a range of things we have done and will continue to do to try and support our staff throughout the process. Okay, so clearly we have the line management support and our managers ready to support staff as we have these conversations, as we move through the process. Okay, our faculty HR team are ready there to support any of our staff that require some help or assistance in terms of understanding what options they have available to them, but also just being available to talk to. There is the formal kind of EAP or Employee Assistance Program that the university runs, but in addition, the faculty will be making sure that we have our own support available to help our staff across the board. There will no doubt be a significant amount of questions that people have, okay? As you read the paper, as you digest things, you will want to know a whole heap of information, okay? There will be no shortage of Q&A sessions available for people. I really want to make sure people have the opportunity to ask questions and have them resolved, either in a forum of this size, either individually, either in a small group, or in a kind of a team-based or a school-based local environment, okay? Opportunity to actually be able to put up your hand and ask a question, but also an opportunity to kind of ask a question anonymously, okay? Just as what we did with the town hall sessions in terms of use of Slido, the use of questions that were answered, up on our intranet site are the answers to all of those questions, okay? And we will continue to release that for people, okay? I want to make sure people have access to all of the information, as much information as possible to help them through this process, okay? The OPEX website that medicine has set up in terms of an intranet site is there. It is continuously updated with information. Okay, resources are going up there. Questions, answers to questions. This presentation will go up there. All of the town hall presentations and videos are loaded onto that intranet site. Okay. And the final point I wanted to make was in terms of training available to those, those people that are directly impacted once a decision has been made. We need to make sure that they are well supported, okay? That there is training available if they're needing to write a CV, that there is training available to help them actually through any sort of expression of interest or interview process, okay? We recognize that for some people this might be the first time you've updated the CV in a very long time, or first time in a very long time that you might have actually been part of an interview process. We recognize that. We recognize that people need support for that in terms of the very specific support in order to give people the best opportunity to kind of win a role in the new structure. Okay, so the Q&A sessions kick off tomorrow. Okay, so for IT, there's a Q&A session. Okay. For medicine, a Q&A session on Thursday, and then we'll run another one on Monday, okay? In addition to all of those Q&A sessions, I have gone out to the heads of schools and the school managers, centre managers, etc., and said, I'm available to come and talk in it whatever way you want. Okay, if you want small groups, if you want individuals, if you want your whole school group, okay, I'll make myself available to actually be part of Q&A sessions. Okay, really important to me that people have the ability to ask a question and have it answered as honestly and frankly as possible, so that you have all of the information. The Q&A sessions are not really going to be an opportunity, unless they're individual one-on-one, to ask about specifics about you and your role. Okay, I think we need to use the time wisely. So really, we're looking at information that will kind of be relevant to all people, to make sure we cover what are the next steps, what are the details that you actually that you require to help you think through the proposed organisational structure and provide some feedback on that. Okay, it will be looking at the next steps. We'll be looking at the available support. Okay, so there'll be plenty of opportunity. The final slide I have is just as really a way of kind of for information. So again, we want to use a mechanism to make sure people feel like they can engage in whatever way they want as part of this Q&A session. So the intranet site has a web-based form that people can ask questions either directly to me with their name or anonymously. Likewise, in Slido within the app, there's the ability to ask a question either and name it or ask it anonymously. Okay, so really important that people feel like they have an opportunity to get the information that they need in order to support them. Okay, I'm going to pause there. And we have just a little over 20 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. Shall I do? Yeah, sorry, Brooke. Sorry, no, not Brooke. My apologies. Go on.
Jonathan, people on fixed-term contracts who are not continuing, are they able to apply the first round of openings for the newly established positions, or do they have to wait for the second round?
Okay, so any position, any person that is in a position that has been potentially disestablished or at the implementation point disestablished, okay, whether they're on a fixed term or whether on a continuing, has the first opportunity to apply for any new or vacant role. Okay? So if you are in a position that has been disestablished, whether you're on a fixed term contract or a continuing contract, you can apply in the first opportunity. Okay? If you have been retained, either in a continuing position or a fixed term position, you can't apply in the first opportunity. Okay? Through this process, within our enterprise agreement, we have to give people that actually are disestablished the first opportunity to win a role in the new structure. Okay? If there are vacant, or when there are vacant or new roles still available, we'll then move, the next phase will be an internal round to all, and then it will be an external round. Okay? So that was quite a consistent process that was followed in finance and what we're following in external relations. We will follow that across the board. The only slight difference to this is actually people that are in disestablished positions or anyone at any point when it's their turn, if you like, can apply for any role across any faculty as part of this workplace change. Okay, so you're not limited to apply for only positions in medicine. And likewise, someone in another faculty that's in a disestablished position is not limited to apply for positions only in their own faculty. And that was a deliberate strategy to try and align things, so we gave people, those that are interested, the opportunity to apply for other positions across the board. Right.
So when do people learn about the specifics of the activities within the proposed roles?
Yep. So today when the workplace change consultation paper is released to name staff, they will also have access to a portal, okay? In that portal, they will have access to every single position description that is in a new or a vacant role, okay? In those position descriptions, you'll be able to read about the activities that are being proposed as part of this new structure. Other questions? Ken?
If you decide you don't want any of it and you want to be retrained for another job, what sort of retraining courses can you do? Because that's in the enterprise agreement.
Yeah, it sure is. So look, I think it would be, so the question was in terms of if you are not interested in any of those roles, but you're interested in being essentially redeployed into another role requiring additional training. So I think we would deal with that on a case-by-case basis. Yes, the university has to actually support individuals to be retrained into other roles. But you're making a decision to actually not apply for other roles. You're making a decision not to actually exit the university. You want to be redeployed into a role. And so therefore, that individual and the university needs to work together to look at the appropriate training for you to be able to move into another role. And I think we would deal with that on a case-by-case basis depending on the individual roles are of interest to them. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Scotty, will the information released include the proposed levels of the new positions? So obviously some of us might see a position and it may or may not be at the same level we're currently on, and we might think twice if it's at a lower level. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was in relation to will you see the classification levels of all of the positions as part of the workplace change consultation paper and in the portal in the position descriptions? Yes, you will. So the consultation paper lists the current state, everyone that is named in that current state, their positions, their levels and their FTE, and it lists the future state. Okay, a proposed future state. So you will see people that have been retained in positions. They'll appear in the future state, maybe under a different title, okay, or a different reporting line, okay. But you'll also see some new or vacant positions that will be listed at actually different classification levels, okay. And so what you can't do in order to get to reach a decision about whether someone is potentially disestablished at this particular point in time, you have to meet a couple of criteria, okay? It has to be that the position is no longer required in the future state, okay? If the position was no longer required, then you could say the position is potentially disestablished. If the responsibilities have changed and either the classification has gone up, which in some cases across this proposed support model is the case, or responsibilities have changed and the classification has gone down, which is also the case as part of the proposed model, then what you can't do is you can't map someone into that. You can't automatically say you have to take that role at a higher classification or you have to take that role at a lower classification. Okay? So you actually have to say these are potentially disestablished and they get the opportunity to apply for whatever role that is of interest to them. The only other reason why you might potentially disestablish is if you have fewer number of positions in the future state than you do in the current state, okay? And we don't have any instances of that in this particular workplace change. There was a question at the back. Oh.
Jonathan, is that information that goes to all staff in the faculty, not to academic staff like
Yep.
Or is it a feedback we want to
So the question was in relation to who is the paper and that information going to go to. So first and foremost, it will go to people that are named in the paper. Okay. It will also go to heads of schools. Okay. And the heads of schools have been told to actually distribute that as they see fit within their respective school centres and institutes. Okay. Fundamentally, we must hear from as many people as possible. There's no point actually just looking at the professional staff and not actually engaging our academics. Just as there's no point just solely listening to the academics and not engaging all of the professional staff. Okay, we want to try and hear from as many people as possible because I have no doubt that in this proposed state we will have missed something, or we might not have quite got it right. And that's why we need to, that's why it is a proposal, and we want to hear the feedback, okay, so we can address things.
Do you expect that the interviews will be handled the same way as the finance ones were, in the sense that people apply for one or more positions, but they're interviewed by the same panel at one interview?
Yeah. So the question was in relation to expectation around how the interview process or the recruitment process might go. Look, I mean, there has been some thought about it. We don't want to presume a decision, but in terms of what I am anticipating will happen is that it will be a similar process in terms of an expression of interest and a CV, so not a full response to selection criteria required. Okay, people will be able to flag what roles they might be interested in applying for. We are looking at ways to try and streamline the process to still give people the best chance to win roles, but to see if we could speed up the process so it is not a particularly lengthy process. Finance, we're still filling roles now. The workplace change paper was released on the 22nd of February. And we're still trying to fill roles. Okay, so we're looking at ways to accelerate that. Look, I think there are some benefits of having using the time wisely in terms of multiple being interviewed for multiple roles at the same time. But I also think there are some challenges. It makes it hard on the applicant to think through. Well, am I answering this question thinking about this job, or am I answering this question thinking about this job? So we want to make sure we address those things and learn from the kind of the lessons from other workplace change processes. But there are techniques that are becoming increasingly prevalent in terms of trying to look at process of recruitment, to sort of look at group type of activities, then get down to the individual activities. But ultimately, no one is making a decision for us here in terms of who we want in positions. It ultimately comes down to the line manager's responsibility. Okay? Yeah. There is no sense here that people are going to be sort of shoved into jobs. Okay? People got to want the job, then be got to suitable for that job. Other questions?
I noticed you have a slide for occupational health and safety. To the staff that currently carry out these jobs, do they still fit into the same category, or do they move to a different category?
Okay, so the question was in terms of health and safety. So I think what you're asking is whether we do have a central health and safety capability. Okay, that sits within a central team. What we're not doing is sort of abdicating responsibility to that team. We're saying no one in the faculty does health and safety. I mean, clearly they do. Our research support officers, or our laboratory managers, for example, that's a huge component of their particular role. Anyone working in those sorts of environments, it has to be fundamentally part of their job. And so that will be retained, if not increased, in terms of making sure we have that capability. It's not, what we're not doing is trying to shift that function anywhere else. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions? Hi.
As far as the trimester structure goes, is there any envisioned changes to the medicine semesters?
So, I mean, in terms of UNSW 3+, we've been working very closely with them to look at aligning all of our programs, including the medicine program. But actually, that doesn't mean we're not changing the curriculum as part of that, because clearly that's locked in from an accreditation point of view. And medicine itself doesn't sit within a 2-semester model either. It sort of has its own model, but it can broadly align with the 3+ model. So all we're trying to do for the medicine program itself is align it where we can, but it fundamentally runs its own course in terms of a schedule. Where we have exercise phys though, or our postgraduate programs, they will certainly be aligned. Any other questions? Still got 10 minutes if people want to ask any other questions.
I have one more question. Sorry.
That's okay.
People that are disestablished means they're not married.
That's correct. Yeah. So if you are, so the paper's released, there are appendices as part of that paper. The appendices show whether someone is just continuing position to be retained, okay, or a fixed term position to be retained, or the position no longer required, okay, or to be disestablished, right? So what we're saying is that role has been flagged to potentially be disestablished for the reasons that I talked about, i.e. it's no longer required, the responsibilities have changed and classification has gone up, responsibilities have changed and classification has gone down, or there are fewer positions in the future state model, okay? Where a position, if reporting line has changed or a title has changed, that doesn't warrant a potential disestablishment of the position. That's just simply saying we want to try and align the positions, okay? We want to align the kind of reporting lines, and actually actually then tweak the responsibilities of those positions, but it's not significant enough to say that the position is fundamentally different and therefore would be potentially disestablished.
So will it be a situation where some roles will go to external contractors?
So the question was in terms of some roles going to external contractors, and the answer is no. So there's no intention to try and actually say there's a role here that we want to give to an external contractor. Okay. So we are trying to move towards a model where we have continuing positions in place. Okay. So new positions that are new or vacant positions, or new or vacant positions are a continuing position. They'll all be a 1 FTE. But like I said in the other town hall sessions, we are fully supportive of flexible workplace arrangements. Okay, so even though a role might be advertised as a 1 FTE, if someone is currently or wants to work flexibly with their arrangements, then we will be supportive of that. Okay, you're not locked into I have to work 1 FTE because of the way we've advertised the position. Any other questions? No? So look, I will, the range of information you're going to get, okay, over the next, certainly today and later on, and probably first thing tomorrow. Today, shortly after this meeting, you will receive an email with the workplace change consultation paper attached to it. Okay? I will also send another email to people reiterating some of this information here in terms of Q&A sessions and providing a link to the website where this presentation will be. Okay, so you can have a look through that presentation in your own time, and we will get the recording of this session up on the intranet site as quickly as possible. Okay? I would encourage you to talk within your respective school centres and institutes, speak with your school managers or your heads of schools to organise whatever Q&A sessions you want. There will be faculty sessions, okay, but there will also be local sessions. I'd encourage you to attend as many of those as possible in order to give you the most amount of information. I recognise that it's an incredibly difficult time for all of us, whether you have actually been in a position that is potentially disestablished or whether you have actually been retained. Okay? It's a difficult time, and so I'm sensitive to that I want to make sure we deal with people respectfully and sensitively, give people the support that they need. I will be available at any time. Either email me, call me, ask me to come and meet with you or your teams to actually talk through that model. There will be lots of questions that run through your mind as you look at the model and you look at the position descriptions and you try and work out, okay, how does that work? Okay, that's all conversation we want to kind of work through so as we get the feedback that we need in order to make sure whatever we release at the end of the consultation period, whatever that might look like, is ultimately the best model for medicine. So look, if there are no further questions, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your time and your effort, and wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you.